Where's the DJ? Welcome all, welcome all. Happy to have you with us. I hope you can hear me well. So I see again familiar faces and new faces with us. Happy to have you all and happy to have this great session again supported with our great partners from PlaySight and additional speakers that you will hear later on. I see that people are joining and many of them are texting me that they are on the way, but we have to start on time, so we'll do it now. My name is Oren Simanian, the founder of Colosseum, and I'm very happy to launch this session with our great team, Fernanda, Tim, Tomer, and the others. The next slide. So before we start, it's important to say that we're going to have a sports tech demo day that will take place on the 21st. And I think it's a good opportunity. A lot of us talking now about what's going on with the sport tech world when the startups are kind of they are facing some challenges. And one of the main challenges in startup in the entrepreneur's life is actually fundraising. And even now it's kind of getting more challenging. So I think having the demo day opportunity to share with startups, they're going to come and pitch their ideas in front of several investors that we collected from different areas, of course, from Israel, from the US, from Europe and others. It's a great opportunity. So I encourage entrepreneurs to join us with this opportunity and actually to apply for the demo day and not to waste time on this session. Tim, passing to you.
Yes, can everyone hear me well? Welcome to the Global Sports Tech Talks. Again, it's very exciting and it's an honor to have you all with us. People from all around the world. People are still joining, but we'll get starting because we have a great lineup of speakers today. So let's not waste time. So I just wanted to share some introductory remarks in terms of why are we here and you know the power of technology in sports. So just, you know, if you look back 2 months ago, things looked pretty bad with the outbreak. You had many sporting events across the world being canceled. You know, the sports industry really suffering from the effects of this global pandemic. The PGA, FIFA asking for an emergency fund, Wimbledon being canceled for the first time since World War II. And many other events like Euro 2020 postponed from 1 year until 2021. Today it seems like hopeful signals are emerging across the sports world. First, we kind of have a calendar now. Of course, those dates are you know expected dates, and they can still be subject to change. But at least there is some kind of perspective as of when and how the sports world and the sports competitions will come back to life. So that is a bit encouraging, and some good examples of that are popping up across the industry, whether it's UFC that returns to organizing some fights, whether it's the Germany's Bundesliga coming back actually in just 3 days, coming back to life in 3 days. But still, the big challenges for all of us and for all the industry stakeholders remain ahead. You know, we have to face the challenge of restarting the games in health conditions that can be satisfactory and that can be safe for all parties involved. Also looking at from a team or player's perspective, the mental health of the athletes after 2 months of quarantine or so-called lockdown. Also, of course, the challenging of engaging fans that probably will still be remote for a good amount of time with empty stadiums and challenges of this sort. The physical load when players will be asked to you know return to the field and have a kind of heavy physical load to compel with, and of course from a more business perspective, all the deals with sponsors and broadcasters that have been questioned because of the last 2 months and need tough negotiations. But it seems that we can do one thing, and that's what the industry is telling us, is that we can use the power of technology to innovate in this new context. And actually, we see, you know, across the industries how the sports stakeholders and sports franchises have been able to come up with new solutions to engage their fans, to engage their athletes, If you look at what Formula One did with the Virtual Grand Prix race, using esports and platforms like Twitch or YouTube as key leverage. Same with the ATP Tour, unveiling a virtual tennis product with the IMG Arena, but also cardboard fans to fill up empty stadiums, and we've seen a good example of that as well with the NFL for the NFL draft. And looking at this from this perspective, the tennis world seems to be very much paving the way, and we're very lucky and honored to have with us today on the line the very people that are behind the first major achievement in sports over the last 2 months, which was to bring tennis back to life and organize a tennis tournament in COVID compliant conditions. And so we have people on the line from PlaySight, our partner, and Sport Radar that will dig deeper into the success story of the Tennis Point Head Exhibition Series and also what it took to make it happen from the insider perspective. So just a key message here that in the new age of sports, passion, of course, will still be the engine, but technology is definitely the enabler, and we'll see with our great line of speakers and hear from different perspectives that this is absolutely true. So first, I'd like to welcome on board Jonathan Ehrlich, a Grand Slam winner and ATP player that will be conversing with Jor and Oren as to share some introductory remarks. Welcome, all of you, Jor, Joni. It's very much an honor to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Very excited. And yeah, a very exciting time ahead of us. Jor, nice to see you here as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoni, and thank you, Oren, and thank you, Timmy, for collaborating with us at PlaySight and speaking about, not the past about the coronavirus, but starting to talk about the future, getting out of this position and being creative and thinking about the world of tomorrow. Yoni, it's a pleasure to meet you. We have an honor guest, a very, very large guest that we are having here. With all of them very good friends of mine. We have Craig here joining us from Austin, Texas. We have Rodney from Germany. We have Jack from Sport Radar on us. All of them are key figures in all the evolution of the action that we are doing during those times, and being creative and maybe challenging the tomorrow. Yoni, before we start, maybe, from the perspective of a professional player, and I won't say that you are 42 because
43 actually.
43. I envy.
I wanted to say 43, but I didn't feel the confidence.
I want to play also, and tell us, where did it meet you, and it's very hard, in 42, 43 to keep up and maybe step down for a month or two. Just, if you can share with us a little bit before we start.
Of course, obviously there is two perspectives. One in terms of my personal career, being one of the veterans of the tour, as I said, 43. We just started this season. I was very pumped, might be my last season. And suddenly mid-February, beginning of March, suddenly they close the year and they say, wow, we need to stop now, postponed it for maybe 3, 4, 5 months. Right now, it looks like it's going to be even more. A lot of talking of canceling the all year 2020 and start thinking only about 2021. But besides being on the personal side, I'm talking about all the players. Nobody of us used to, besides being injured and be out for so many months, be without competition, without an income, without the feeling of the competition. And I think even Nadal was speaking about it, Djokovic was talking about it. We kind of like lions in the cage, we all like to compete, getting ready to go every week in, week out, all around the world. And suddenly we stuck in quarantine in our house, and we're overwhelmed for all of us, and it was very, very hard for each one of us.
Great. Thank you, Yoni. And I think we can jump on to the first interview. Oren, you want to say something before?
Yeah, I think that
everybody.
I think that talking about if I didn't touch the age, but the drawer mentioned it, so Yoni will jump into it. How many? I'm sure that so many times Tim was presenting you as Jonathan Ehrlich in Israel. If you don't say Yoni Ehrlich, no one really knows what you're talking about. So welcome, Yoni, and it's great to have you here with us. And I think that the main thing that people are actually facing in tennis in many other fields is how the hell you come back in such a short time into the pitch, into the court, and actually to real play, and people are expecting you to give your best show because, you know, TV rights and so on, and the audience, they want to see the same. And the main question is about injury prevention here, especially again connecting it to the age, and when you for sure put a lot of efforts and focus on that. So what's from a personal side, how do you prepare?
I think actually in tennis specific, it's probably the easiest from all the sports because we actually maintain ourselves through all year, 24/7, and every day, off season, on season, we practice every day of maintenance, doing endurance, we can practice our own. I mean, I have my own physical, and when I don't have my physical trainer with me, I'm practicing on my own. So it's unlike the football and the basketball that they're in team and they used to go in a camps and practice all together and maybe not used to practice alone and individually. In tennis, we do it all day long, through all the year. And you could see today it's easy on the Facebook and Instagram from Schwartzman and Del Potro and Vavica, they're all practicing alone and doing it. And actually for tennis, that through the year they don't have so much time to recover. I think for them it's actually great to heal. And talking Federer coming from injury, for him is even better that nobody's practicing, so he can even up, and whenever they start, it will going to be kind of even. And so in this perspective, I think it's actually the tennis will be easier because through all year we practice and do maintenance. So all this injury prevention we do all the time, and I didn't stop before, and I keep going. So once you can start practice, I think you don't need more than 3, 4, 5 weeks to get into your A to sharp. Obviously, if you have no matches, so in the beginning, everybody will be a little bit rusty. But in terms of the fan, of the TV, nobody will see that
the difference.
How he's not going to be in good shape, but everybody more or less
yeah.
be even level.
Makes sense. And as an ex-football referee, I will ask the common question with the coin. So when we toss the coin, it has two sides. So what's the good sides of this kind of, I would say, crisis, corona time? What actually you take from maybe training online or other tools that you've learned along this period of time? What is the good thing you can kind of share with us that you took from this period, besides having finally breaking your life and not flying?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know my wife better a little bit, and I always laugh, and she's a very nice person, you know. I got married, and since then, for 15 years, I didn't really know her because I was traveling.
I was aiming to ask if it's a good thing, you know.
Well, I found out she's very nice, so we might keep going like that. But we really find our inner strength of each one of us and really develop. And as I said, through all year, we don't have, as a tennis player, we have maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks stop as a break from every year. And my career is over 20 and something years. I had a break of 6 weeks every year for the last 20 years. So we don't really have time to develop yourself, to work on your injuries. I have injuries that I carry with me for like the last 3, 4 years. And every time is just prevention, but cannot really heal. So this is actually the major for all the players. They have time to heal, even mentally, you know, to have a break. And once they're going back, I'm sure everybody will recharge their energy and will be fresh and be great for everybody.
Okay, Yoni, Ehrlich, great to have you here with us. Guys, if you would like to contact, there is the chat. You can write messages, and I will pass, again, the keys to Tim. Yoni, thank you for joining, and Dror, thank you for inviting Yoni to share with us the insights.
Sure.
Please.
Yes, I think it's a good transition to actually move on to our story because, you know, as Joni shared, players are ready to get back on track, and that's what also made possible this incredible tennis point exhibition series. So we're lucky to have Jack and Ronnie on the line. Jack from Sport Radar and Ronnie from PlaySight that are the guys behind this incredible success story. So please, the floor is yours, guys, and enjoy.
Yes, sure. It's a pleasure for me to host my friends and colleagues, Rodney, our managing director from Europe, and also the owner of Base Tennis, which was the place that hosted the first tournament in the world coming back from the coronavirus, and Jack, manager of partnerships from Radar, that is doing with us great things and great collaborations together. And Rodney, you know, for us in PlaySight, you know, we give solution, we give many technical tech solution, you know, developing the players, giving them data, giving them everything to get better. But we also provide, you know, production, automatic production, no use of, you don't need to use anybody, you just, you know, push start and everything is ready. So we had to start thinking what we are going to do. You know, these are dead times, and I want to start from this. So Rodney, first of all, nice to have you, and please, if you can just introduce yourself a little bit. You know, starting from tennis, college, and what your background is, and afterwards, if you can tell us a little bit, you know, what was the story, and when did you come with the idea? And it's a risky idea, you know, so tell us how, why, when did you decide that we want to do it? And it was starting from small idea, and it was an evolution of it. So if you can elaborate on this, we'll be happy to hear it.
Thanks, Ro. Thanks, guys, for having me here. And Jack will jump in a little bit around the idea. A bit of background: I'm living in Germany, but I'm from Australia originally. I grew up in Melbourne playing tennis. I wasn't that good. I tried to become a professional, but at 18, I realized I wasn't good enough, and took a scholarship and played Division I college in the US. And then, you know, my journey took me to London for 6 years, and then I ended up opening up an academy in Germany with 5 indoor and 6 outdoor courts. And my relationship with PlaySight began in 2014, where we were the first smart club in Europe to install all 5 indoor courts with PlaySight. So I'm originally a customer. We still are customers, although I'm not so involved with the academy day-to-day stuff. We still use it heavily. And I think, you know, you picked up a good point, Drew, on your questioning in terms of, you know, the evolution of PlaySight. You know, PlaySight's DNA is very much coach and player development, right? That's where we started, as you know, and I think everybody remembers PlaySight for all the smart sport stuff and analytics. But I would say our evolution has brought us to a point where we've got heavily into automatic production, not just for tennis. The tennis is one of our key sports, and I would say we're market leaders for the sport of tennis. But we also do other sports, and we work with Sport Radar, you know, in the Belgian Basketball League, and work closely with Jack. So that's a quick background. Yeah, that's a quick background into how we got into PlaySight, or my journey into PlaySight. And the idea of how this came was basically Jack and myself and David sitting around on a phone call thinking about, okay, what can we do in terms of bringing live sports back? And because of my relationships through PlaySight with the national federations, we wanted to, you know, discuss with the federations about holding exhibitions. But then it turned out very quickly that when I was discussing with Jack, that we had all the ingredients we needed to host an exhibition at our venue in Germany, because we needed PlaySight to produce it, we needed players, and we needed a venue, right? So we had all those ingredients together, and that's how it sort of came together in a short form.
Didn't you like, you know, there is a little bit of risk, you know, there are rules, there are things you need to do, something can happen, you know, you're taking a risk to do it, and what was the final decision to take it?
There aren't so many rules in Germany.
Well, look, I mean, there's a lot of luck involved with it. I mean, and we cracked some jokes about a wife. I said to Jack, putting this together, and we started, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, we started literally early March, Jack?
Well, no, it was mid-March basically. Basically the week after all of those tournaments just started falling off a cliff in terms of them going ahead. And yeah, I think as you said, it was a joint call between myself, my boss David Lampett, and obviously Rodney. And as Rodney said, I think we've all learned a hell of a lot of what goes into organising a tennis event over the course of the last 6 weeks. I think Rodney's had quite a few sleepless nights. But we basically just discussed what PlaySight could bring, what Base Academy could bring, and what Sport Radar could bring to the party. And thankfully, we had all the ingredients necessary to host the event. And then we obviously got Tennis Channel on board towards the end. That obviously, resulted in a 7-camera high-scale production, which we can come on to in a minute. But no, that's the kind of how it all started. And just very quickly, Draw, I know you introduction to myself. So yeah, I work in the sports partnerships team at Sport Radar. So Sport Radar is basically a sports data and audiovisual content business. I work in the sports partnerships division, so we help manage Sport Radar's 200 plus rights holder relationships around the world. And we try and secure content that enables the Sport Radar business. And that content then gets distributed to our clients across the media and betting space. So,
exactly. So pointing from your saying, Jack, I want to ask you and Rodney, to make this happen, it took like joint forces of so many parties. So we have some companies like Sport Radar, we have LiveView, we have Tennis Channel, we have PlaySight. Rodney, Jack, can you a little bit elaborate on those collaboration and what it took to get everybody together, and if you can share with us a little bit about the feedbacks that we are getting to this unique tournament.
Yeah, Rod, I'll just take the Sport Radar bit quickly
Sure.
So in terms of what we offered, and then obviously you can discuss PlaySight and the Academy, which I know you were heavily involved in. But from Sport Radar's side, the way we thought about the ways in which we could support the event. So that was through the provision of the data collection software that the umpires used to score the match, but that also acted as kind of a data scout for ourselves, and that's how the data is transmitted to all of our clients and also onto the TV graphics and to the stream. We obviously were involved in the production, so initially when we first came up with the concept, we were going to obviously kind of do a fairly simple 1-camera setup production, and then as Tennis Channel came on board, we basically joined forces with PlaySight's capabilities and our own production capabilities to put on a 7-camera production with robotic camera heads to make sure obviously the court was COVID secure, like not many 2 people around the court, and there was such a degree of flexibility around the organization, because even until 10 days before the event, obviously we were unsure as to whether the event would be permitted to take place. And obviously, as you mentioned, Draw, about the risk was about a player getting coronavirus and the event not being able to take place. We were all aware of the risks, but thankfully so far it has come to fruition and it's been a success.
So just to make it sharp to the audience here, we are talking about a tournament with 1 referee, no line callers, no massive TV crew, all automatic production, robotic cameras, statistics, analytics, everything actually without humans involved in this. So this for sure, and I want to ask you, Jack,
But just to emphasize, Dror, it's important to say to the audience and continue that it was actually the first tournament took place, not from the history, it's like live playing during these times.
And it was, not from the top 10 players of the world, and the traction and the feedbacks, and I'm sure Rodney afterwards will say a few words about it, was amazing. But I want to ask you, Jack, can you elaborate about what the benefits Sport Radar is seeing from the PlaySight tech with all of this?
So, well, we've obviously, as Rodney mentioned earlier, we've had a partnership with PlaySight going all the way back to pretty much this time last year with the Belgian Basketball League, and then we've tried to strengthen that relationship, particularly in tennis. I must admit, I never imagined our partnership, Rodney, going down this route. But it's this partnership that we've put together over the course of the last 12 months has essentially enabled this tournament to go ahead. And from our perspective, it's of course as a sports content business. Obviously, the fact that very little sport is going on at the moment has a big impact on our business, and so that's obviously was one of the drivers behind the tournament, is to be able to I guess put on an event that essentially creates some live sport for everybody to enjoy.
For sure. We see that Yoni spoke about it in the beginning, about the benefits and what happened good from the corona. I think, Rodney, the hunger of the players, you see that they want to participate, and we follow this tournament with a few other tournaments, and you see from tournament to tournament that the players want to participate. It's not all about money. They are not getting the prize money that they are used to, but still you see the hunger. So, Rodney, can you tell us a little bit in few words about the hunger of the players? They want to participate, and the amazing feedback they all got, with maybe in the regular tour, they are not getting such much, exposure.
Yeah, I think, look, we're very proud of the event we put on, me and Jack, Dave, everybody at PlaySight's proud, because we, as Yoni said, the tennis players, the big difference that most people don't know is that tennis players are self-employed. So it's not like the other sports stopping and getting a salary as they go on, a decreased salary. The tour ending for them means that their income is shot for the next, let's say, in a good scenario, they're back playing at the end of the year, but there's a lot of stuff missing for them. So the message was that we wanted to do something, especially for the players lower down in the rankings anyway, who struggle to earn some money. And we did that. I think no one predicted, like I said, Jack, David, and me were the first phone calls, and then we started jumping on calls with the rest of the PlaySight team, and then the academy. And at the end, I think, Jack, there was something like 20 people on the call, all involved with, right? It became bigger and bigger. And, unfortunately for me, I made this joke that I didn't get to spend time with my wife. My wife became Jack from March till the launch of the event, because we literally spoke about 20 times a day trying to put it together. But it was fun, and it was nerve-wracking, and we got very lucky in the fact that Germany as a whole did really well with the corona situation. So we were coming out of that very, very, let's say, faster than the average. And also the different individual states having different rules. And our state where we're situated in was one of the first to come out and allow tennis. So it all sort of came down, and I think we got the green light, maybe, like Jack said, 10 days, I think, generous. I think we were like 6 days away from the event starting, and we had the green light to start. And then all of a sudden it got out. I wanted to keep the media interest very low, and then it got out. Someone did an article, and I think I sent Jack a video the other day. I think the event had something like Super Bowl numbers in terms of media reach. We had like a potential 186 million like readers who read about the event in 40 different publications around the world. There was news articles about it in South America, Australia.
And crazy.
Yeah, we had the players. The best thing about these players is that we gave them a platform to express themselves. And I don't think, and actually it's funny that Craig's sitting here, because he was there when Dustin beat Nadal. I think he gave the tactics for Dustin to beat Nadal, which was huge. And I don't think he's had that. Dustin himself hasn't had that platform since that match. So it's actually quite ironic that Craig's sitting here on this call as well. He can maybe talk about that in a second.
Great. Now, summarizing, our talk, I want to ask you if you can, just take one thing from all this tournament and action regarding the future for tomorrow. What would you say will be the one thing that you are taking from this for the tennis of tomorrow?
Do you want me to go first, Jack, or you want to go?
Droy, I assume you're talking about the tennis of the next 9 months or so. Is that?
Yes,
I I think, yeah, unfortunately, as we discussed at the start, I think, yeah, the tour may not return this year. So I think tennis fans are going to have to get used to these types of exhibitions. As we mentioned, they are extremely competitive. Like Rodney, you sent me some videos of rackets being thrown and things like that. And so these guys are taking it seriously. So exhibitions don't mean non-competitive tennis. And I think over the course of the next 8 to 9 months, these exhibitions will grow in their sophistication and almost become mini tours in themselves. So the academy now has a brand of Exo Tennis, and that's what they're running for the German event. And there's going to be events starting tomorrow in Atlanta, and that brand could become a mini tour in itself. So I think that's how it's going to pan out. I think there's going to be organizers who try and kind of bring some events together rather than having these ad hoc events just dotted all over the world.
From my perspective, to close it off, I think, someone asked me the question tomorrow, if tomorrow someone opened up and said, hey, there's 1,000 people allowed in the venue, would you let them in? And I'd say no, because we have to really think about the players' health and safety first. And this is really about the message that we all said when we started this, that we are going to put the players first in this instance. So health regulations that we took care of in terms of, let's say, how the players are sitting, etc. We spent a lot of time and invest a lot of money to make sure those requirements were met. I think that is definitely going to be the next 9 months, looking after the players and putting the players' health before anything else. And the second thing is, I think we're going to see innovative stuff like what we did with this thing where semi-automated production, we had 7 cameras on the court, but not 1 cameraman. And things like that, where we're using technology for sure, is going to play a massive role in how we combat, COVID-19 and this bring back.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Jack, Rodney, thank you very much for this talk and talking about, getting back and doing the first tournament in the world. It was amazing, short, compressed road to making it happen, but it was a huge success and it taking it to the rest of the world. And maybe from this, Jack and Rodney, I would maybe ask Yoni. Yoni, you are also the captain of the Israeli team, also a player, but also a captain. What are you doing, with the players? You need to keep them. You need to play. You need to make tournaments. What are your plans?
Absolutely right. Actually, seeing Jack and Rodney and listen to them, and I was following the story of Germany, and that actually give us the idea in the association how to keep our players. Being as a Davis Cup, I have also responsibility about my players and being healthy and being maybe they were talking about Davis Cup in September, October that we still need to have. So maybe somehow playing it, and I need to keep them sharp and keep them competitive. So watching this amazing event in Germany give us an ideas, and actually now we are sitting and thinking how to start like locally prize money tournaments and exhibition events in Israel. We don't have such a big depth like in Germany players, but we have like 10, 12 ATP rank that I want to get them together and make them a living and give them a few dollars so they can still keep in sharp and paying for the coaches and living whatever, and have some matches. And add to that also for the fans in Israel that have hunger for watching tennis, give them a perspective of this new team, because they're all around 20, 22 years old kids that still didn't break through to the ATP. They're all around rank between 300 to 500. They have the chance to expose to all the audience in Israel, the fans, to see them and as the future tennis. And this is a great platform for them.
Exactly.
And I was very pleased to hear that Jack and Rodney gave me great ideas. So thank you for that.
Yeah, me and Yoni, we had a chat even before I invited him to the webinar exactly about this, because Yoni, is thinking and he's getting the text from the federation to do something. And we spoke about all the possibilities, the technology, what we can do in order to show it, to broadcast it, to give the players a little bit of a stage like Rodney, like you did in Germany, to those players that maybe on regular days will not be broadcast on TV or whatever. So for sure, Yoni, we will continue to discuss this.
Definitely.
Good to hear. Okay, thank you. I think we should, Timmy, move on.
Yes, yes. Thank you guys for wonderful insights around this amazing achievement. And I think what Ronnie mentioned about the Dustin Brown story is a wonderful transition to our next conversation and presentation by, I would say, the world's, I think, biggest expert in data analytics in tennis, Greg. Greg, it's amazing to have you with us today. So the floor is yours. We're all ears, and I think that the tennis world, the sports world, is very eager to learn about beyond the amazing achievement we heard, like how technology and data analytics are key to improve players' performance and development.
Before this, let me personally introduce Craig and interviewed after by Josh, our head of racket in PlaySight, which was also a first racket in North and Western College, so he was also a player, not just using the technology. And I have to say, me and Craig, we spent some time together, some morning and nights, eating borscht and everything. And I have to tell you, listen, I've been to tennis. PlaySight is on tennis, and I'm hearing a lot of things, a lot of lectures. And for the first time that I heard Craig lecture, even though I'm a basketball guy, I love tennis, but I'm a basketball guy, I was really, really amazed by the thinking. And for me as a coach, I always say, try to train effectively, to get better on your game. And sometimes you're not being effective on your practices. And when I heard Greg and his unique thinking about train for the match and how you are wasting so much time on training, regardless of the amazing analysis that he's doing, because not everybody is crazy like Greg, collecting the data, editing the videos. He's a redhead like me. He's crazy coach, but this is why we have also enable the technology to give you, and Greg is a brain, and we want his brain to teach the systems of technology and to make it like a commodity for more coaches to have analysis without being crazy, without being, hours and hours. And I think the collaboration to the technology and the brains like Craig are very important. So
let's hear him.
Craig, let's hear you. And then Josh, will interview you a little bit.
Sure. Dror, well, that was amazing. I'm going to bring you around the world with me to do the introduction exactly like that, because I'm
texting you my fees, man.
We had the best bowl of borscht in Poland, this beetroot soup, and it was simply the best meal of the year. And I had that with Dror. So really nice to be here with you guys. Jonathan Ehrlich, you don't know this, but when I do my doubles presentations, there's one point you played with Andy Ram against the Bryant brothers in Las Vegas, I think it was, way ago. And I used Dartfish to annotate this point and this center window concept. And there was 10 balls that went right through the middle of the court. And I kind of record them going through there. So I see you playing tennis every week. And Rodney, we've connected over in Germany. So it's really, really nice to see you guys and connect with everybody here. What I'd like to do here at the start is just give you a little feel for some of the work that I do and the collaboration that's so important. So I'm going to share my screen with you, go to a presentation and click play up here. 2017 Aussie Open, IBM are collecting all the data. So we have IBM as one of the people that are involved here. And when you look at the three strategies, well, actually, it started at the US Open back in 2016, where we see average points won. So we all love the baseline. The baseline is a great place to be when we're playing socially. If you and I walk out on the court, we're rallying back and forth from the baseline. It's a real happy place on the court. But once you get into a match, you can see here the average win percentages is actually a really, really tough place to forge an advantage. When we look at the net, where we typically think, okay, the net's a tough place, you know, the rackets have more power now, the athlete is faster to get around the court, the strings have more spin, it's tougher to get to the net, it's really tough to serve and volley. Even if all those scenarios are true, look at the average win percentages and they hardly ever change. So we have our views, you know, we've been involved in tennis for a long time. We grew up playing it as a junior, we coach it now, we watch it on TV. But you've got to go to the analytics. You've got to go to the numbers to really say, is this true? Is the baseline the best place to be? Is the net a terrible place to be? So the analytics bring us together and say, hey, the baseline's a lot tougher than we thought, and the net can be a really good place. So I cut the baseline up into 4 even areas. So you got 27 foot divided by 4. You got these areas that are about 6.5 feet wide. And I've cut courts up in a different ways all, you know, throughout my coaching career. Nothing's ever stuck. I've seen other people do it until I saw this. And so you've got IBM, you know, creating the first kind of data. And this ABCD concept came from Hawkeye. And, you know, one of the things that we're talking about now is also a collaboration of tennis coming together. You know, we have the ITF, we have the ATP, we have the WTA collecting data. We've got IBM, we've got SAP, we've got Infosys, we've got Hawkeye, we've got PlaySight, we've got all of these different entities around the world. And I think something that we should be all striving for to come out of the Corona break is to become more unified, is to share data a lot better. And, you know, PlaySight has been an amazing addition to our sport and bringing, you know, the data live to the court and being able to stream it and share it. So the more we can share, the better. And, you know, today's webinar is just one example of that. So when you cut the court up A, B, C, D, A is always out wide in the deuce court. You know, it's just 4 basically, as simple as I can cut it up, 4 even areas. I'm going to show you where that originated from. We see this red dot, this C plus area. So to explain the plus and minus, the outside or the left side as we look down the court is minus, the inside is plus. So the C plus is kind of the right side of C, and that is the most important part of a tennis court. So not only when we're training forehands and backhands, we want to be standing in the C plus area because it gets the most amount of traffic. How do we know that? It's going to be from a Hawkeye heat map, which I'm going to show you here in 1 second. So when we look to the baseline, where do we rally from? Where are winners hit from? Where are winners hit to? Here's one example, 2018 London final. I was coaching Novak in this match. Alexander Zverev played incredible tennis. He played much more aggressive than he normally does, and full credit to him for winning this match. So this was a game changer for me when I started seeing this technology. And, you know, PlaySight has this data and Hawkeye has this data, and, you know, IBM will have this data, and Infosys are doing a great job. Let's bring it all together to make our sport greater as we progress through this, you know, terrible time with the coronavirus. The red area is all about player movement. So when we look at this, this is where Novak stood for most of the time. This is, again, player tracking, not ball tracking, it's player tracking. So I look at this area, I'm like, wow, I need to figure it out. I need to understand that Novak's in this area a lot, but how do I describe it? How do I turn around and talk to somebody and say, well, there's this red dot and it's slightly over in the ag court and it's where players stand the most. So it's where we need to be the most proficient. When we look to the other side of the court, we see Alexander Zverev down there. He's got this kind of hook that trails off to the middle. Well, that's part of the strategy. You know, at the time, Alexander's forehand pressured out wide in position A was the weaker area for him on the court. The backhand was fine. So we see kind of 1 ball or 2 balls going to that C plus area and then running him hard to that A plus. So once we start to put lines on the court, we see Novak spent the majority of time in C plus. So how this influences us is, you know, it's not, there's no point in standing in the middle of the court when we're training players, even standing in the middle of the court, working on forehand technique. They need to be working on forehand technique in that spot because that's where you're going to hit it the most. We need to be working on backhand technique from that spot. Where does Alexander Zverev stand? Well, for the majority of the time, he's also in that C plus area. Here's a couple more examples. Thiem and Nishikori. So this tells you a little bit more about Thiem. At the time, he hadn't really crafted his hard court strategies as well as he's done now. I think in the last 12 months, he's done an amazing job of playing on hard courts, and he's just moved up. He's just stopped going back. On clay courts, you can get away with it more. On hard courts, you don't want to be drifting back. But we see him in the C+ area. We see the opponent in the C+ area. Federer and Anderson, last example here. These guys are a little different, maybe, you know, half a meter different. But, you know, we've got Roger dead in the middle of C and Kevin dead in the middle of the C. So the first thing that we understand from this technology, from kind of dragging out some IBM data and looking at some Hawkeye data and contemplating it with other areas, as we figure out tennis is a C2C sport. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to know where to stand, to know what shot to hit out of that area. So, you know, this exact picture I'm showing you now, I sat down with Novak at the end of 2017 in Los Angeles. And I said, Novak, you've got the world's best backhand, but I want you to hit more forehands out of position C. And he goes, okay, Craig, this is a good conversation, but tell me why. So I showed him his win percentages, and basically Novak hits 72% forehand winners from the back of the court. And I said, Novak, most players are going to hit to position C. As you see in this match, they're going there to get it to your backhand. They're going there to hit it to your backhand to bring the ball back cross court. If you can run around that ball and hit forehands from that position, it's one of the best things you will do to forge your winning advantage and get above 50% from the back of the court. This same conversation that I'm having with Novak, I'm having with 10 and 12-year-old boys and girls. It's the same strategy. Think of those younger players doing exactly what Novak's doing at a slower speed. Same strategy, slower speed. Again, I showed him this picture. This was Cincinnati, I believe, yeah, Western Southern Open. So Novak's hit the ball to Roger there for the intent of going to Roger's backhand. And Roger's gone a couple of shuffle steps across and hit a forehand. That picture right there is a Mona Lisa of tennis. Feel free to screenshot that. Feel free to put it through your color printer. Feel free to put a beautiful picture frame around it, because we want players running around their backhand, hitting forehands. Roger's a right-hander. Typically, we say the ad court is for backhands. No, no, no. The ad court is for forehands. Let's go back to our ABCD. We see just this one snapshot picture. We've got Novak in D. We've got Andy Murray in D. We understand natural angles. Yes, Novak can go to ABC, but the majority of the time, D will go to D. Let's understand forehands and backhands from the back of the court. We play a forehand-dominated sport. At all of the slams, the winners are coming from the men. They're coming from forehands. For the ladies, it's still a forehand-dominated sport. Maybe not quite as much, but we're still, you know, in that, you know, we're nudging up close to that 66%, which is 2 out of 3. So this is a great, you know, I have a lot of bad analogies, but this I think is my best one. Your forehand's your sword. The forehand's what you attack with. The forehand is your main weapon. The backhand is your shield. You're going to get attacked to the backhand. Every now and then you can knock somebody on the backhand, hit a winner. We're going to have a look at that in a second, but the forehand is the sword. It's around an 8 mile an hour difference. So just one example of the differences with this spot. 8 miles an hour is a big deal in getting the ball quicker to the other side of the court. I studied 18 matches at the 2018 Australian Open, 293 forehand winners. It's not the whole tournament, but it's a nice little data set. So where are most forehand winners hit from? Jonathan Ehrlich. This is coming at you, my friend. Most forehand, I know you're a doubles specialist, a doubles guru, but you probably watch a little bit of singles. Most forehand winners, we already know that there's most traffic in C, but most forehand winners, and again, I must say this data set is only right-handed players, no left-handed players. So most forehand winners struck from A, B, C, or D. Jonathan Ehrlich, what is your answer?
I would think actually from D. So from here, they actually have either go to A or deep D. I would think that from forehand, from D would be the obvious.
Okay, I like where your thinking's at. So D is second. D is second. So you get very good marks there. So because of the traffic factor, because there's just more churn going on in C, C is a position that you'll hit most forehand. You're exactly right. D is next. So we see A and B, where you traditionally hit forehands from, is on the lower end. C and D is on the higher end. So we must be teaching our young players to run around their backhand and hit more forehands from the other side of the court. 60% of forehand winners are out of the ad court. And, you know, when I first started working with Novak, again, I said, Novak, you got the world's best backhand. You are going to dine on forehands. When I first started working with Kevin Anderson, same conversation. You're going to run around it. Where have the winners hit to? So we know they're mainly generating out of C and D. Do they go to A or do they go to D? Draw, what's your answer? A or D?
A.
A. You're a smart man. You're a good-looking man with a great haircut, and position A is exactly right. So we want to run around and we want to go to position A. And the reason that why is the 2-1 pattern. You want to push back to, you know, the first thing you want to do is push back to C. The second thing is push wide to D, and you've opened up a hole. So basketball has an assist. I know PlaySight, you're very heavily into basketball. Tennis must have an assist. The assist is push back to the backhand, push wide to the backhand, and then you've got the winner to position A. Last couple of minutes here. Backhand winners, 19 matches, 178 backhand winners. Where are most winners hit from? Jonathan Ehrlich, we're back with you. As the backhand, position C or position D, where the players hitting most backhand winners?
It gotta be D. Otherwise, I shoot myself.
It's D. You are a very smart man. Very smart man. I love it. Most are in D. And Draw, coming back to you.
No, this is for Timmy. This is for Timmy. He said he's a tennis fan.
Do we go to A or do we go to D?
Timmy, help me out.
Draw, you're taking me by surprise. We go to
We got a
B.
50% chance, Timmy, A or D?
We go to D.
You are incorrect. Now you got to pay more attention. You got to pay more attention down the line to A. So I'll just come out of that right there and stop the share. So this kind of information, I think the most important thing here, it's a collaboration. You've got IBM providing data. You've got Hawkeye providing data. You've got Brain Game Tennis interpreting. You've got, you know, influences from PlaySight here. So one of the things that I want to get going out of this is let's bring tennis together. Let's share more. Let's open source this data to so many people that are out there in the world that want to know more about this. And let's come out of this pandemic as a stronger sport.
So, Craig, I'm going to hop in with a bunch of questions because we don't have much time and there's a lot of stuff I want to ask you.
Well, Draw took it all away before I got on, so we'll blame him.
So we'll hop right in. So you mentioned kind of a bunch of trends and that has implications on how we practice as players and how we coach as coaches. How do you think that this data and what the trends you're seeing, how should it impact how we train? Should we be spending more time in practice at the net? Should we be, you know, starting instead of hitting down the middle? Should we be starting in that C position? How do you suggest?
Two parts to this answer. The first part is before we didn't know what was happening in the match, so we just went to the practice court and kind of guessed. We kind of guessed what was good. We guessed consistency was the greatest thing ever. So we'd hit 100 forehands cross court. We thought it was good. It's not. It's not helping you win more matches. So what we want to do is analyze the match, figure out what matters most to winning, and cut that up into derivatives and use that on the practice court. But this is where I think PlaySight has such, you know, it's a hidden gem here, is that you guys can be on the practice court. You can suggest the drills that players need to be doing. If players are working on a depth drill or working on a direction drill, they can input that into the technology that you have. So, you know, I think that the evolution of PlaySight here is infusing the patterns of play, teaching the people at the terminals and on the court with PlaySight. Here are the best patterns. Here's what Novak does. Here's how many times you're finishing today. I mean, imagine playing a practice set on PlaySight and going, okay, Novak hit, you know, 70% of his forehand winners to A, and you only hit 12%. You have a great area that you can add to your game. So using technology on our practice court and using the match data, I think is a really good way moving forward.
Great. And do you see, you know, on the professional level, do you see the players already adjusting, like over the last, 20 years since data and technology became more relevant? Are you seeing differences in the way they practice?
Yeah, well, I think the practice is getting better, and it's also the terminology. I mean, I write a weekly emphasis between the line story on the ATP website. And, you know, sometimes I'm also doing a brain game analysis on a Masters final or a Grand Slam final. And you just hear the lingo changing. You know, you hear Rafa, you know, when they had the Laver Cup, Rafa goes over to Coach Roger, and Rafa's saying, hey, Roger, you're winning more points in 0 through 4, you know, but play more short points. I mean, these guys are all copying each other. You know, the 2-1 pattern, the run around forehand, I learned that from Roger and Rafa, and I taught that to Novak. So, you know, the top guys are all watching and paying attention, and as we should. Let's learn what matters most in our sport, and let's help each other, and let's help the millions of people out there that are struggling with their game at the club level. Let's deliver that data to them and help them be better tennis players.
Right. Absolutely. And so you mentioned Novak. You know, we can learn a lot from your work with Novak Djokovic. I think you worked with him for over 3 years, and really in the prime as he's been winning tons of Grand Slams. So I'm curious, one of the specific questions you talked about forehand as a sword and backhand as a shield. And it's incredible to me that's, you know, even for Novak, who has probably the best backhand in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
Was it hard to convince him that was how he should be thinking about it because his backhand's so good?
No, it wasn't hard at all. In fact, it happens in 2 seconds. So again, I remember sitting in LA, and I'm showing him those exact Hawkeye heat maps, and I show him the one where he stands the red dot, and he's kind of surprised at it. He doesn't really know that. And then I overlaid ABCD and said, you know, C is where you need to hit more balls. And he said to me, again, he said, why? And so I showed him 5 years of London data, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. You have Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Murray, Ferrer, and Berdych playing all of those years. And I said, here's the data. You know, you guys combined are at 75% forehand winners at that event, and you're at 72%. And he goes, Craig, this is exactly what I want from you. A lot of times on a court, I have a decision. Is this a forehand or is this a backhand? Do I go forward? Do I go back? Do I go slice or do I go topspin? I need to make a split-second decision between two things. And I go, this data takes that decision away right now so that I'm going to gravitate to the right thing. So he was all in from the first conversation.
Right. And so that gets to kind of, he has that knowledge in practice and the way he trains so that by the time he gets to the match, that's all automatic. There's no analytical, I mean, there's some strategy going into it, but he's established those reactions already.
Yeah.
That he should be running around that shot.
Exactly. In practice, the ball comes down the middle of the court, kind of easy, run around it. And he's training himself so that thought process is immediate, automatic. It's almost a feeling. You're wanting, you know how the point's going to end, and you're looking for that ball.
Right. And obviously being in the locker room, being around these guys, you probably also got to look at other top players, Nadal and Federer. I'm curious, are all these guys and gals as analytical as Novak is, or is he unique in that way?
Yeah, but more and more so. I mean, you can't run away from it. You look at every other sport and it's going down that road. You look at the body of work that now is coming out on the ATP website and other websites. The WTA doing a good job. You can't find it because we're just simply not known. It's been a sport of feel because we haven't known match data. We've had no other option. Now we can look at it. Now we can understand it. More players are going down that road, and they see the work that I do with players, whether it's Novak or Berrettini or Young-Leonard Struff. They see it, and they're like, I see improvement. I see a smarter tennis player out there. I want some of that.
Right. And so I've seen, like, you know, Federer, I was at Indian Wells and we had, you know, we were in the players area, and you see him sitting down with his coach and friend, Severin Luthi. And I would see them kind of look very intense for like an hour talking to each other. And I figure that's had to be, you know, talk about strategy. And what it made me think about is, okay, they've had all this conversation about strategy. Now he goes out and the first set either goes well or doesn't go well. And so now it's, you know, let's say he loses the first set or 7-6, it's a close set. How do you think when that happened with Novak, did he change his strategy going into the second set, or did he double down and say, I didn't execute well enough, I need to stick with the strategy in the second set?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, I didn't execute well enough. I'm going to stick to it. And there's always layers. There's always plan A, plan B, plan C. You know, a major part of the strategy is understanding the favorite patterns that players will go to when they're stressed or when they're close to the finish line. And once you know those patterns, you know, that's a huge advantage. But there's sometimes, like some of the conversations a coach will have with a player is say, okay, he's gonna hit forehands inside out to your backhand. Then you get into the match and the player's going the other way, the opponent's going the other way. Some players are gonna look up to their coach and go, Coach, it's your fault I'm losing this match because you told me it was going that way and now he's going that way. The conversation I had with Novak at the start, I said, listen, we know what the primary strategy is from the opponent. We know, because we've got such a big body of work of studying them. If they start going the other way, that's actually to your advantage because you're pushing them out of their comfort zone. So there's never that blame game going on, is that we know they're primary. The opponents are quite, you know, it's quite legal and fine for them to switch their primary patterns. But if you know that and you stick to the strategy, and sometimes it's just a simple matter of relaxing and stepping up one more step into the court and hitting the ball and making the opponent uncomfortable. Yes, there'll be different strategies. Yes, a player will come to the net more. Yes, they'll slice more. Yes, they'll try other disruptive tactics. But in general, it's, I got the tactic right. I just need to execute it better.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting that you can almost get confidence from the player playing differently than they usually do because you've already gotten in their head.
Right. Exactly.
That's a great mentality.
Josh, Craig, we must wrap it up and move
okay.
forward. It's so interesting, but let me summarize. You know, this Craig, you spoke with Josh about technology. You almost asked for PlaySight, for Hawkeye, for all those technology to share the knowledge. And this is very important to me and to us as PlaySight, to democratizing the sport, not only for the elite level, but going to the mass market, going to the next generation, give it to them, because not all of them will have Craig O'Shaughnessy. Not all of them will have Darren Kyle, Simona Halep, which we work as a coach from far away or inside. So if they can see their data and have the brains behind it and know what to do, for sure, we can give all of those juniors much better knowledge and advanced tools to get better. So thank you very, very, very much, Craig. Thank you, Josh. And Josh, you can take us forward to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Craig. So next we have Coach David Roditi from TCU. He was a top doubles player, also a top coach, obviously. And so we're really lucky to have him join us on this call. Let's see if Coach is there. Coach Roditi? Oh, there you are.
Yes,
How's
I'm
it
here.
going? Hey, so thanks for joining. So we have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to jump right into some questions here.
Absolutely, no problem. Interesting stuff. It's been great. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, awesome. So I guess my first question is similar to what I asked Craig is, you know, at the college tennis level, how have you noticed changes in the game the last couple of decades from, you know, the use of data and technology, and whether it's just the general game or the way that you and your players practice and train?
Yes, absolutely. That's there's a few trends happening, I think, in the game, and obviously college is we're looking at the pros and what the pros are doing, the way the pros are training and what are they doing. So any opportunity we get, whether it's a guy like Cameron Norrie going on the tour now, played for us, and now he's coming back to, you know, we ask him a million questions, and there's absolutely no doubt that it's all about analytics. He plays for Great Britain, so the LTA, for example, has just a whole library of information on each player. So every time Cameron plays, his coach Facundo will get a sort of the history and the patterns, everything that Craig was talking about on his next opponent. So that's sort of filtering down to the college level. PlaySight has played a huge part in this. I wanted to get live streaming and be able to film all our matches without putting a little camera, a little GoPro on the top, and we couldn't afford it until PlaySight. And you guys changed the game. I would say 80% of the colleges at the top level have PlaySight, and now we have Playfair, and there's some really fun, interesting stuff coming up.
That's awesome. And it's funny you mentioned the LTA there, because I remember meeting Ivan Lendl a few years back, and that's when he was coaching Andy Murray. And he pulled out his phone and he was going through stats that LTA had sent him. And he was telling us that he tracks the stats of, he said this, I don't know if this is an exaggeration, but every single ATP match, he would look at the statistics. And it's interesting. Do you think that's something all the federations do, or is that unique to the LTA that players get this report before their matches?
So I don't know for a fact that they all do. LTA is one of the most resourceful of all the federations. I know the USTA does as well, and I don't know who else. I don't think Mexico does. I don't think we're quite there yet. But I would be shocked if France and Germany, I'm sure they do the same. So it's all out there. And Craig's, you see him everywhere. You see him in all the Grand Slams, and he's done an amazing job. I always love listening to him. I feel like every time he opens his mouth, I learn something. So, well, not every time. And I listen to him. So.
Same here. And that goes to democratizing the data and the technology, as Jor mentioned. If every federation can have access to these types of analytics. And actually, kind of on that note, I'm curious, the WTA has now implemented analytics and stats in real time during matches for their coaching in some tournaments. And I'm curious, if you had that access, how in a dual match, how would you use that for coaching in the middle of a match if you had this report of this first set stats?
Man, I would, obviously I haven't been in that situation, but you got to be very careful. People, if you have never coached, and I think this happens in Davis Cup quite a bit, is if we're so used to not being able to coach during a match, other match, and now WTA and Davis Cup, that people are like, oh, if I could just tell my player this, if I could just, it's not that simple. It depends on the player. Your timing has to be very good. You must know the player, because what you are saying could be 100% right. Yet if you say it at the wrong time or in the wrong tone, it could absolutely backfire. So you got to be very, very careful. And something I learned from Coach Jose Higueras working with the USTA is that the best coaching I've ever done is when I keep my mouth shut. So,
and it's tough in the college environment when you have the fans and the players and the coaches. It's a lot to think about and take in. So to have also additional information, I'm sure that's difficult.
So it's great. So information would be awesome for me as a coach, and then I'm sort of the filter. I must filter all this information, and literally like a computer going on, and I'm taking all these variables from everywhere, where my player is, where his opponent is, what's the score, what's the momentum, what happened, what could happen, what's the score, is he winning, is he losing, is it even, and you got to take all that in consideration. And then you literally, as a coach, you might say 3 words, and that's it. And you literally filtered 80 variables just automatically. And I think that's, I would like to believe that that's the difference between a more experienced coach than a less experienced coach, is that you how many variables can you take in your head and be able to filter it so you say 3 words, and that's what's going to make the difference. Sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right, and absolutely backfire, but that's just the only way you learn.
And it's great that you brought that up, because a lot of times when we're talking about the PlaySight smart court system with all the analytics, there's coaches that say, oh, this is taking away my job. Actually, the way we look at it makes it that much more important, because a great coach is going to be able to sort through that and know what to tell the player. If the player looks at all the data and all the information, it's information overload, and nobody can handle all that.
And there's a difference between being the player when emotions are running high in the moment, in the heat of the moment, versus looking at it in your living room without all that emotion going on. So the coach is there to be able to, whether it's a nod or a word or a look, like, yes, trust it. This is on me. You get it wrong, it's on me as a coach. So, you know, one thing is all the data, like Craig said, be able to execute. Well, to be able to execute, you must be in the right mindset and be able to calm your nerves. So it's not that easy. Otherwise, somebody would have already done it and we would have a robot out there, and we don't. So, but it's all just information, and all this analytics, it just helps you. Just like, you know, being able to, for us to play a match against Texas and we send the video that we got from PlaySight and it gets analyzed, we come back and we talk to the player, and it's very important what you talk about, and more importantly, what you don't talk about. You don't talk about everything. You just go there, spend 5 minutes with your player, give them what you want, and get out. Because too much information hurts you. So it's very interesting stuff, and that's a great point you make. It doesn't take the coach's job. Actually, the coaching world, it's only increasing. There's more and more opportunities, and players know that they need a coach.
Absolutely. And I hope I have a time for just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going until they cut me off.
Yeah.
So
let's do one more.
One more. Oh man, only one more. So it's hard to decide what to ask you, Coach, because I have so many that I want to ask. But I guess going forward, how do you see, just because of the current situation, we got to ask about that. You know, how do you see players continuing to improve in the next few months? And more broadly, I'm going to try to work in two questions. What do you think is the next phase in the evolution of training and technology that maybe you can start to implement in the next?
Yeah, so absolutely analytics. I mean, that's like Craig said, you could take advantage of this pandemic and come out a better sport, a better player. You know, looking at all this data, looking at past matches, all of that. That would be one simple you can do in the living room. The other one is the way we train. I do believe, and that's more in the fitness part. I think you're seeing more and more that tennis is so hard on your body, and the way we train, whether it's, you know, yoga and Pilates and more of a core and all this shoulder stabilization exercises and core and hip stabilization exercise, the way we train, I think we're going to look back. I've made the comment that we're going to look back and go 20 years ago, like, what were we doing? Why were we training? Why were we hitting so many balls? So being able to combine this analytics and being more efficient in the way we train so that our body doesn't take so much, and then spend more time in the gym, but not in the gym like just pumping an iron, more in the gym doing more of that core work. And it's already happening, but it hasn't transcended down to all the levels. And I think, so you're going to see that difference. And then the way tennis is going to come back, I mean, I would think this is an unbelievable opportunity for PlaySight, that you're going to have this, like they were saying in Germany, all this exhibition type players want to play, and we can't have big numbers. So a combination of PlaySight with 8-player tournament or 4-player tournament or exhibition, whatever you want to call, and you have PlaySight and we can watch it, and ways to subscribe it. I mean, I think that's going to be the first phase and second phase, and it might last 2 months or it might last 8 months. We don't know that yet. Interesting. So I know we're out of time. I really appreciate you guys even giving me the opportunity. I'm flattered to be around all the experts. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
It's our honor. It's our honor, Coach. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks, Josh, for moderating. Great conversation. Great insights that we hear from all perspectives. You know, the coach, the strategy analyst with the amazing Craig, and the player with Yoni as well. Jor, do you want to share any end words to wrap it up? I mean,
first of all, I want to thank personally to everybody that joined, you know, the audience. I hope even if they want the tennis fans, they still learn something about the combination of the technology, the options of technology to give you, the data of the professionals, to being able to broadcast, to live stream. We talked about automatic production. We talked about players development. We spoke about analytics and data collection, and all of those from actually sport tech companies. And I want to last, wrap it up with Yoni and ask him, Yoni, from your age, and you've gone through so many things in your career. I want to ask you if you learned something new from this webinar. What are you taking?
Believe it or not, I was listening and I want to always thank Greg. Every time I listen to him, I love his passion and his enthusiasm into the game. And every time I learn so many, and even made some notes here. Once he was talking, I was reading notes, not only for me, because my career is almost there, but even in my career that I still have maybe 1 year, 2 years, I can still develop. And I think this is the major for the players that want to be better and better. And Josh was asking Craig how Djokovic was hearing that he wanted to change, and I was thinking in my heart, of course he want to be the best in the world, and everyone that want to be the best, they need to keep developing, because my theory that if you stay the same, you go backwards, because everybody always want to improve. And I learned so many things that he was saying, like coming to the net, me and now is a Davis Cup, and working with these young guys that already are in the ATP, but starting, and they say, no, I don't want to go to the net. I'm watching them and tell, listen, you go to the net, you suddenly win 5, 6, 7 points more, which make the difference of winning and losing. Everybody's playing from the baseline. Go to the net, change a little bit, or where to hit the forehand to, where to hit the forehand from. Take from the comfort zone your opponent. I learned so much, and I want to thank all you guys. Even me, 43, I have already almost 30 years of experience of the high level and playing with Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, and every time you can always learn something. So I want to thank you for that, and it was really inspiration for me as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Like we say, those are the facts, and we are giving facts. And now let's talk about it. The visual thing, the facts are easier to the players, even on 43 and on 12 years old. When they are seeing the facts, either data or the video, they are getting the idea, and it's much quicker to develop and develop and be better.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. Thank you, Timmy. Thank you, Coliseum, again.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. What an amazing conversation. And I want to thank Dror and the whole PlaySight team for a great partnership around this webinar, and for an amazing achievement with the exhibition. Just to wrap it up on Colosseum, just to share, we're here to help, and we also have this platform, Winterize, where we can find out more about all the companies we mentioned. If we look at PlaySight, check it out. All the info about the great sports tech solutions that was mentioned during this webinar or out there. So sign up, it's free. It's very important that we share that knowledge, as Joe emphasized, to bring those sports tech solutions to the mass market. So see you very soon on another, actually next week, for Sports Tech Demo Day, and on another Global Sports Tech Talk in 2 weeks. And again, thank you everyone for joining. Stay safe in those times, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye, everyone.